In this example, we will look at a game matrix between two companies, Kodak and Fuji. What we will be looking at are the profits each company will achieve depending on how many rolls of film they decide to produce compared to their competitor. These profits will be located in the cells of the matrix. In this game matrix, decisions will be independent, meaning they will be made simultaneously. What we will first look at are the strategies, also known as the strategy profile of each company. Each company has 3 strategies they are able to choose from in this scenario. They can independently choose to produce either 50 rolls of film, 75 rolls of film, or 100 rolls of film. So Kodak has the option to produce 50, 75, or 100, and Fuji also has the option to produce 50, 75, or 100. What we can now begin to look at are dominant strategies for each competitor, in this case Kodak and Fuji, and if they exist in this example. What we will first try to do is determine if Kodak has a dominant strategy. In order to determine if Kodak has a dominant strategy, we will compare their strategies, but we will also assume Fuji has a fixed strategy. So first what we will do is assume Fuji has a strategy of choosing 50 rolls to produce. Kodak will then want to produce 75 rolls of film, as they have the highest profit when Fuji decides to produce 50. Next, if we look at Fuji producing 75 rolls, Kodak would again want to produce 75 rolls of film, as they again have the highest profit. Looking at 100, when Fuji decides to produce that, Kodak, for a third time, would want to produce 75 rolls of film, giving them the highest profit. Since each time, no matter what Fuji decides to do, Kodak will want to produce 75 rolls of film. 75 is Kodak's dominant strategy. In determining Fuji's dominant strategy, we will want to go through the same process. So what we will first look at is when Kodak decides to produce 50 rolls of film. Fuji would then want to produce 75 rolls of film, giving them their best profit. When looking at Kodak producing 75 rolls of film, Fuji again would want to produce 75 rolls of film, giving them their best profit. Then, finally, when looking at Kodak producing 100 rolls of film, Fuji would still want to produce 75 rolls of film. Again, since Fuji, their best option is to produce 75 rolls of film, no matter what Kodak decides to do, 75 is Fuji's dominant strategy. What we can look at now is we can start to discuss if there are any Nash equilibrium in this game matrix. In order to determine if there are any Nash equilibrium in this game matrix, we'll first start at a random cell on this matrix. So what we could do is start in the cell when Kodak produces 50 and Fuji produces 100, right here. What we can then do is compare Kodak's strategies, producing 50 compared to 75 rolls. What we see is Kodak is going to want to produce 75 rolls because it gives them a higher profit. So what we can do is shift into this cell. What we will now do is see if Kodak would again want to shift their amount they would produce. We look at 10 compared to 5, and we would see that no, Kodak would not like to shift anymore, so they're going to stay in this cell. Now we can put a box around 10, because that is their best option in this row. What we now want to look at is if Fuji would like to shift. This will be shifting up and down. What we see is that Fuji will want to produce 75 as compared to 100, as it gives them a higher profit. Now we can then compare Fuji's strategy to produce 75 compared to 50 when Kodak is producing 75. We will now see that Fuji will not want to shift anymore, as 16 is their best option. We can now box 16 since it is our best option. Now what we will want to look at is if Kodak would like to shift again or not. We will compare Kodak strategies. They see that in this case 75 gives them their highest profit of 16 as compared to 50 and 10. So again, they're going to want to stay here. We can now back 16, and now we see that 75 is the best option for both player, and at this point neither player wants to deviate from their current position. This is our Nash equilibrium. One final thing we can look at in this game matrix is comparing the dominant strategies. We know that 75 and 75 are our dominant strategies. What we notice about this is that where they meet is where the Nash equilibrium of the matrix is. It just so happens to be as well that when dominant strategies meet, there is a Nash equilibrium. So this checks out, and thus ends the example.